Look, you know, the Eagles have gone through a lot of changes since we were last here a year ago. Michael Vick, now the starting quarterback. Kevin Cobb, possibly on the trading block. Juan Castillo, now the defensive coordinator. A lot of changes, but there's one thing that hasn't changed. Andy Reid is still the head coach here, and it's been 12 years. You're going to hear a lot of words like injuries. You're going to hear words like competitiveness. All of that kind of stuff is just a bunch of excuses. It's all about change, and unless the head coach has changed, we will be in the same spot talking about the same issues next year.
I believe the Eagles are headed in the right direction. Now, we'll sit here for an hour and a half and debate whether or not the man who's leading them in that direction is the right guy for them. Having played for Andy Reid for 7 years, let me tell you from personal experience, I believe he is the right guy that's going to lead us to a Super Bowl. Now, there are some things that need to be changed, mainly on defense, and I'm looking forward to debating whether or not Juan Castillo is the right guy to be the defensive coordinator.
The defensive coordinator made no sense to me. It might turn into the most brilliant move they've ever made, but everything smacks of panic down there right now, from the coordinator to what they're going to do with a backup quarterback who we're told was on the road to be an all-pro or something. Now he's on the road to another town, and we're told that Michael Vick was just going to be kind of an alternate. Now he's the guy. I don't get the sense that the arrow is pointing any way. Every day I wake up, it could be pointing north, south, east, and west. So for the first time in a long time, although I didn't agree with the direction in the past, now I really fear that there's absolutely no direction at all.
And I am here today to tell you I am offended by my presence here and by the topic we are discussing. We should not be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles or the National Football League because they have turned their back on each and every one of us with a lockout that disrespects the support we have given to them for the last umpteen years. We deserve better than a lockout. We deserve better than have them charge us for PSLs and all the high prices for everything and then expect us somehow, some way to be supportive of them. Damn them all. Damn them all.
The Eagles season went a little bit like my golf game. Even though I got all the necessary tools, I got the best balls, I got the best Jeep, the rangefinder, and at the end of the day, when I look at my scorecard, there's too many mishaps. There's too many left opportunities. When I look at this Eagles team, and even though I had too many pulls to the left or slices to the right, when I know what the problem was, I couldn't make the adjustments at the time. When I look at this Eagles team down the stretch, when he counted the most, those guys cannot make the adjustments at the proper time.
What we want to hear about today is how the Eagles can win the Super Bowl. Everybody has a reason. You can point to different things. If we were all that bright, we would be with the football team somewhere, and we'd come up with better reasons. Teams that win with a great quarterback. The Eagles have not had a great quarterback. And we'll find out whether the guy they have is the great quarterback. Teams that have won have had terrific defenses. The Eagles have been up and down with their defense, and we'll find out this year whether Juan Castillo is the guy.
Let's go Phillies. The problem with this team is not coaching. The problem with this team is personnel. And it's a problem on one side of the football predominantly. In a town that knows so much about defense, the defense doesn't exist on this football team. And that is the difference between the Eagles and the Packers, the Eagles and the Steelers, is they don't have a defense. You look at this personnel, and it's not good. There are two players, Asante Samuel and Trent Hall, and that's it.
The Eagles have one of the youngest rosters last year in the NFL, won their 6th NFC East title in 12 seasons under Andy Reid. The team sits in prime position to strike in free agency and in the draft, led by an offense that is as dynamic as any in the NFL. There are many warts on this football team. I look forward throughout the offseason to seeing how the Eagles address those warts. No one in the Eagles organization sits back with any sense of satisfaction or fulfillment simply because the team has won 6 NFC East titles and has made the playoffs 9 times with Andy Reid as head coach. The goal, the only goal, is to win a Super Bowl.
Dave Snell came out and made some great comments today about the Philadelphia Eagles and some of the works that they have. But I think that the thing that a lot of people are missing out on when he talks about free agency, when this free agency is going to start, we're in the middle of a lockout, and right now it's looking really ugly. So when you're talking about all these great weapons that the Eagles have, and you talk about all the awards that the Eagles have, when are they going to get the opportunity to fill those awards?
Some of the new coaches who came here because they said that this team has a quarterback in place. When it comes to a team with flaws, and every team has flaws, this Eagles team, and I agree with Anthony, it's about personnel, has several holes to fill. And I believe that the Vic factor is going to encourage free agents to come here, because I don't think we all realize the rock star quality and position that this man has within the league when it comes to free agents. And when it comes to the head coach, I think when he walks into the room, we should stand like the Roman legion, tap our chest, raise our fist forward, and thank this man for years of entertainment, excitement, excellence, and victory.
Howie Roseman is a complete and total unknown quantity, and that's the problem. And it almost seems he fits the exact same role that Tom Heckert did before, and that is to be energetically optimistic about every move that Andy Reid actually makes. I don't believe that Howie Roseman is actually making any of the major decisions involving personnel. If you want to know who screwed up last year's draft, it's the same guy who screwed up most of the drafts prior to that, and it's Andy Reid.
I look at this team last year, before Michael Vick was named the starter, most of us presumed this was a rebuilding year. Most of us presumed it would be a 6-10, 7-9 sort of a team. The reason you were in the playoffs and in the position that you were in solely is because of Michael Vick and his brilliance at playing the quarterback position.
Yeah, I would like to say that the coaches, if I am to criticize the coaching staff, I think they failed Mike Vick in the final games of the season. The adjustments were not there to decide that they started blitzing him on, and like you said, the way that they locked up on receivers.
Yeah, let's also point out they lost that Viking team, which essentially really put them in free fall. They lost that Bears game too. But what's one of the chief complaints we have about Andy Reid? It's adjustments. While we're talking about end of the season, was it Michael Vick, was it Andy Reid? Maybe they weren't capable of the coaching staff of making those adjustments.
Well, when Dave Snell mentions the numbers in the Minnesota and Chicago game, it's so bogus. I think Michael Vick has done a really nice job for the Eagles. It's all comeback yardage. Every quarterback or every team that has a quarterback that's decent is going to get numbers when they have to come back the entire game.
There is none. I think Juan is a great offensive coach. I think that he's a very passionate man. But the problem with this hire is this. I mean, Andy Reid did it, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Reid. But over the years, with this fan base watching him, he's made a lot of decisions that people tend to scratch their head. And they're looking at this decision by hiring an offensive line coach as hiring somebody that you can basically control.
You can ask any player up here, this guy played linebacker, you will see the game through the eyes of a defensive player for the rest of your life. And who knows better how to prepare against an offense than a guy who has studied the enemy for his entire professional coaching time.
Because you can do it. You're really a playoff team. When you want a known quantity coaching your defense, why would you roll the dice on such an important hire? And it's clear they took a risk here that they didn't have to do.
And I have serious questions about Deshaun Jackson, and I think they're right to question that. When you look at it, he took too many plays off. His route running was not crisp enough. We know he's a dynamic player. You know that he's a weapon, and he probably accounted for 2-3 wins himself.
Deshaun Jackson is a #1 receiver. He's one of the best receivers in the game.
What?
He demands a double team every single play. If you take that equation, I'm gonna tell you why. Because he's dynamic up the field. The Eagles, when he took that big shot against Atlanta, the Eagles did not want to get hurt. So they took away one of the best parts of his game, going across the middle.
He doesn't want to do it. His route running was poor. He took plays off.
It doesn't take to run a great route to run across the middle.
Yeah, you have to trade him. I mean, they put all the cards in his hands when they gave him that contract, but they're losing for nothing. what are the chances that he's going to want to come back here after his job was taken away from him in the Kevin Cobb era? I didn't see them stomping to anybody's door to stop all the talk about the Kevin Cobb era. That starts, Michael Vick comes in, guy gets hurt, never comes back.
If the April hearing lifts the lockout, we'll probably see Kevin traded because they can get a first-round draft choice in this draft and fill some holes.
This is a passing league, but we saw in the playoffs, the Green Bay game, when they needed to stop the run most, they didn't have any horses up front. Now, if you're going to go smaller at linebacker, you got to go bigger at defensive lineman. They can't continue to get smaller on the defensive lineman position and small at linebacker also.
When I look at Trent Coleman, who can really show up at times, but at the end of the season and in the playoffs, Trent doesn't do much. And I'll cite the man at the end, Hugh Douglas, who always showed up in the playoffs. And I remember Jim Miller, and I remember all the hits that Hugh did. That to me was a defensive end.
I think that Eagles fans are frustrated that the team has not won Super Bowl. I understand that. I think that Eagles fans are tired of Andy Reid's press conferences. He doesn't give good press conferences. I understand that. I also think the Eagles fans are very happy that this team has been put together and that it's been a really good football team for most of Andy Reid's 12 years. It is not good enough to win. Look, growing up in the area, I believe this. Until you win a Super Bowl or win a championship, you don't get universal love.
The fact of the matter is that you have a president of the team who actually thinks he's running the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? You have the president of the team who has to be reminded he hasn't won a championship. They like to pass lip service to the fans and tell them they're doing everything they can to win, but every time they're pressed on any issue, they tell you they're among the very best in their league.
You look at the success that Andy Reid had early in his career, and you actually win football games and you turn the franchise around. It was okay, people tolerated the fact that he really didn't say that much in press conferences. Because every year after his first year, you were on the cusp of going to the Super Bowl every year. I think, but now, the act is starting to wear thin.
When you keep the fans at arm's length like Andy does, when you lie to them like Kevin Cobb is my number one, and a day later it's back to Michael Vick, Sean McDermott's fine, and then it's Juan Castillo. You do all those kind of things, coupled with the ultimate, not having a ring, that's where there is a disconnect.
You stand here and you try to act like you're a man of the people and you understand their frustration and the only thing that matters is winning the Super Bowl. And let's hear some of that vigor, that anger, that frustration when you're talking about the lack of success and winning the Super Bowl that the organization has had. You do nothing but make excuses, and you want people to appreciate above 500 records and what they did, what we did, myself, Hugh Douglas, and Jeremiah Trotter did 5 years ago. You want people to live in the past. Bottom line is, Coach Reed has been here 12 years. His former players up here. We all love him to death. He has 3 years left on his deal. If he hasn't won a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, how do you make a legitimate explanation that he shouldn't be fired?
But we're tired, man. We're tired of, at the end of every season, we have all this optimism for the season. And then we get this gut-wrenching, heart-ripping out feeling at the end of the season.
The last time they made a big splash in free agency with T.O., Javon Curtis, we went to the Super Bowl. We haven't did it since then. They got to make a big splash. If you're not committed, then you're cheating yourself, you're cheating the players, and most importantly, you're cheating the fans.
The fans, they deserve the Super Bowl. We're trapped in the middle of New York, Baltimore, D.C. All of those cities have Super Bowl titles. This fan base deserves to be called a Super Bowl champion someday.
I talked about wanting to win and wanting that everyone should experience what it's like for the Eagles to win. But I think about that and I feel a bit disingenuous because on a day like today, I have to be honest, I'd much rather be talking about the Phillies